Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. I think if you look at yourself as the underdog in a great way, like I'm always going to be the underdog and not try to feel like, well, I don't have it all figured out yet and I'm going to wait until then. If you think of yourself as the underdog, you will always impress yourself. You will always be willing to go and kind of be scrappy to get to that next level.
Welcome to Secrets in Medical Device Sales, hosted by Annalisa, Rhodes, and Cynthia Faquera. We are the girls of grit.
As friends, moms, athletes, and powerhouse professionals who have risen from humble beginnings to achieve remarkable success, we are here to empower you to do the same.
Join us as we share insider secrets that few dare to reveal in this highly coveted and competitive sales industry.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Secrets in Medical Device Sales. We are so excited today to have you all back. And we get very excited when we have the opportunity to bring on women who really stand out. So we are welcoming today Kaylee Lindholm. And actually, you know what, Lisa? Why don't you just read her bio? I think it'll be great if we can just hear exactly who Kaylee is, what she stands for, and what our listeners will expect to hear about today. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear this interview. It was so inspiring. I swear, after we were done, I just wanted it to continue and just keep on going.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm still riding on the high from it. I love it.
And all those days that I really feel down, I'm just going to listen to it. Like, seriously, I'm just going to listen to it and be like, yes, and get re-inspired.
But so here's a hint. If anybody wants some good energy, just keep listening.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Kaylee Lindholm, Cindy mentioned, is the CEO and founder of KLC Consulting and the founder of Pop Aesthetic Leadership Academy, which is a 12-month business development incubator for women in aesthetics as well as wellness and even other areas as well who are seeking to unleash their superpower through their businesses, teams, and personal brands. Her mission, and Cindy and I love this, is to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross to the next $1 million milestone in their businesses this year.
Woohoo! Yay!
Yep. And featured as a Forbes top 10 inspiring women in business leaders to watch in 2023 and a USA Today top 10 business leaders driving innovation in their industries to watch in 2024, Kaylee and KLC Consulting is the trusted go-to leadership advisor by hundreds of 7- and 8-figure aesthetic and wellness practice owners. KLC is widely recognized as a brand revisionist, and Kaylee believes achieving the category of one success requires taking a differentiated approach. Her coaching and academy programs bring unique perspectives that challenge the very construct of business success. Paired with significant revenue growth, clients describe the benefit of working with Kaylee as game-changing, both guide and exceptional partner, and provides value well beyond monetary measurement. And can I say, just because of the interview we just did with her, I 1000% agree with her.
Me too. I second that.
Yeah. And when you partner with Kaylee, you will be making an empowered transformation in your business and life. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. Also, side note, Kaylee also has a really awesome podcast with a really cool name. It's called The Fierce Factor. Fierce. I love it. I love it so much.
I know.
So without another word to mention about Kaylee, here's the interview that we can't wait for all of you guys to listen to and be inspired. Today, we have a very special guest, don't we, Cindy?
Yes, we do. I am so happy to bring to you another episode where we highlight very exciting, successful professional women who have made marks here in their professional career. And we get to listen to her story and hear her trail and where she got to where she is. So we are very excited to bring you another spotlight series for today.
Yes. This is Kaylee Lindholm, and she is the CEO and founder of KLC Consulting. And as we mentioned in the bio previously, she's got many, many, many accolades, but we want to hear from Kaylee herself. So welcome, Kaylee. We are so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, ladies. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this podcast. And honestly, I wish when I was in med device sales, I had you, because that would have been such an amazing outlet. And I for sure catapulted my career in another way. So I love what you guys are doing. And I'm excited that you invited me to be here.
Why,
It makes
thank
me so
you.
happy.
I know. It's awesome.
Little happy dance.
So then tell us a little bit about your background, since you mentioned when you were in sales and how you got there. So can you just tell our listeners a little bit about you other than how we introduced you? Let's hear the story from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can definitely identify and have a special place in my heart with med device sales, because I think it was that experience that gave me the bridge to explore the entrepreneurial spirit that I knew I always had. But I essentially got hired into Bayer Healthcare, I was in the diabetes industry and sold blood glucose monitors right out of college. And then after 6 years, I was recruited into the aesthetic industry. And I worked for a company that was a medical device company that had capital $100,000 to $300,000 devices of capital equipment. And they were actually launching a skincare line. And they asked me to come be a first sales rep for this new product. Very different type of sale, different type of business model for the company. And I was like, yeah, I'm up for it. Give me the challenge, show me the way, get out of diabetes and into this cash pay aesthetic space. I can't wait. And I was schlepping around selling skincare and working alongside my device counterparts, and all males, by the way. And these guys, well, I was knocking on door, like showing up like on my milk run with my skincare products. These device guys were raking in tons of money, selling capital, and they were the ones who were always the most recognized and the most sort of like respected and sought after by the company and leadership and management. And I was like, I want to be that. I want to make that kind of money. And so I put my name in, my hat in for like just sort of buttered up to the manager on the device side. And I said, listen, if there's ever an opportunity, I'm really interested in exploring this. And here's all the reasons why you should count on me to be able to like do the job. And sure enough, a window opened eventually. And I got the opportunity to go and sell devices with the big boys, so to speak. And I was extraordinarily successful quickly. I think part of it is being a female in sales and having the gift of knowing how to listen and connect with people. And I had an intuition, and I had compassion and empathy and all of the things that make us so great at sales. But also, I know how to take no for an answer and not take no for an answer, really, is what I should say. And I worked my way up the corporate ladder, and I found myself in a position of becoming a Western area sales director and managing a multi-million-dollar portfolio and a big team of 13 sales reps and covering half the United States. And I got to a point where at that time I had young kids at home. My husband was a VP of sales for a company, and we were like ships in the night, like, hey, where are you headed on the road? And I got to a point where I just felt like I had climbed that ladder, and that was it. And I was like, okay, now I'm here, made all the money that I wanted to make. I got the title. I knew there was more for me. And so, the story goes that I started my company, KLC Consulting, about 8.5 years ago. And it's just kind of been off to the races since.
Wow. What a story. I had no idea, Kaylee. That's impressive. I mean, and you're so young. I mean, you look amazing. So, she looks like she's 25, guys. So I don't know how you did this in such a short amount of time. I mean, a number of things are standing out to me right off the bat. First of all, your energy is very, it pulls you in. Everybody wants to be around.
Contagious.
Happy and yeah, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Happy, energetic, but full of knowledge people. And especially when you're women, it really helps be that enigmatic person. And you definitely are that. And so I can see why they took a leap of faith with you, probably because you were in a sea of men and they gave you that opportunity. And not only did you take it, but you ran with it and really shined. And I think that is something that, at least for all of our listeners out there, just right off the bat, if you want something, you need to go for it. You need to not sit back and think, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could do this. All the reps are men or all the leaders are men. There's no way I'm going to shine. Right off the bat with Kaylee's first message is, if you want something, go for it. And you have to have that belief within yourself. And I can feel that coming just straight from you.
And I love that. And you know what you did is you took the action step. You said, I sought out, hey, if there's ever an opening, maybe right at that moment, you didn't sit there and think about it for so long, but you allowed yourself to say, hey, if something comes up, this is what I want. You got to believe in yourself. And those qualities that you listed, I'm telling all these women out there, it's so true. It's this innate empathy and intuition that women have. And when you combine that with good listening skills and belief in yourself, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And Kaylee, you're one of these people, is a perfect example. So tell us more. I'm getting excited.
Tell us more.
This is getting good.
Well, no, I love what you say about that, because I think it's easy to say, like, go for it, right? Like with my clients will be like, okay, I can get you over to the edge. And then like, you got to just go. You have to also believe in it. You also have to know that like, okay, there's something there for me that is going to be better, even though I don't know what it is, then I'm going to challenge myself. And for me, like my mission in this world is just like to squeeze every last bit of juice out of the lemon. And I think like one really important reframe, like as I was thinking about just the skills that I have as an owner of a business and leading a team. And it really started from back being a kid and being an athlete. And I think if you look at yourself as the underdog in a great way, like I'm always going to be the underdog and not try to feel like, well, I don't have it all figured out yet, and I'm going to wait until then. If you think of yourself as the underdog, you will always impress yourself. You will always be willing to go and kind of be scrappy to get to that next level. And I think it started when I was a kid, and even my first the big time premier club team I wanted to play for. And I finally got the chance to go try out for the team. And I remember going up to the huddle, and these girls were lifting their shirt up to wipe the sweat off their face. And every single one of them had a 6-pack. And I was like, am I going to look like this if I start playing for this team? But my dad was always all about the battle is won in the practice, right? It's about what you do on a daily basis. And he would literally pull up his chair. Even when I had a driver's license, he would bring his little chair to my practice and he would sit and watch me train. And when I got the opportunity to even just try out for this team, he was like, listen, you're not going to be the best player out here. You're not number one, right? But what do you have? What's in your control? You can be the hardest working. You can show up in the front of the line. And we used to train and have to run 6 miles before practice. And he would be like, I don't care if you have to barf and get back up, keep running. Like you better. And he would watch and make sure I came in in the top 3, in those runs. And so I think it's like you start to develop these habits of just knowing that, look, there are things that make me me and that I have control over. And that is, I have control over the way I show up. I have control over the amount of effort and preparation and work that I put into it. And we start to get noticed for those things. And sure enough, I made the team. And eventually, that turned into a scholarship in college. And I can go back and relive sort of that mantra of, hey, I'm the underdog. And that is a big win. And I think for anybody here that's listening to this, that's like, hey, I want to achieve these things, or I want to beat my competition, or I want to be the best, or be known as this. You will be, and you can be. You just have to develop the habit of, how would I show up as an underdog? What would I do to become that, to achieve that? And what am I making decisions every single moment in alignment with that goal?
And that mentality it's amazing. And it does drive you. And a big shout out to you as being a Division I athlete. And this was for soccer, correct? I don't want to,
soccer player.
I want everybody to know. Yeah. And because you have to understand, to even become a Division I athlete, like just that alone is a very small portion of the population. And then to actually go and perform, can you just tell us a little bit about once you got there? I loved hearing how you practiced. And clearly there's going to be top athletes pulled, but your work ethic, was it different? Was it the same? And how did that work once you got to the Division I level?
Yeah. So just to correct, I played Division 2, but I think
well, either way,
very
it's
important.
amazing.
No, thank you. Yes. But I think that's also an important part of my underdog story too, is that having a degree at a Division 2 school, I didn't have the big football team and a lot of the big things to be like, okay, all my friends went to USC and UCLA and I was at my state school, but guess what? My college was paid for. And I learned, I think work ethic is one piece of it. And also I talk a lot with our business owners we work with too, is the mindset of how you train off the field. And so there's a lot of what you do that the people don't see. You've heard the saying that how you do one thing is how you do everything. How do you recover? What's your nutrition? Do you sit in the ice bath, right? No one's seeing that. What are the things that you're doing off the field to prepare you? And I think one of the biggest overlooked or really underemphasized lessons that you can learn in your life through, be it certainly sports or in your career, is how to influence others. And I was always very good at building allies around me. And so whether it was the trainer, right, or it was somebody who I had a direct dotted line to who could influence the relationship that I had with this ecosystem in college or with my team or the bus driver, making sure that it's just the little things like, hey, can I squeeze my bag over there? Can you make sure that you pull up over here for me or whatever? And even in device sales, I was always the one that would make friends with everybody that I could. Not so much that I don't want this to sound like it's inauthentic, but I think just understanding that everybody has a piece in the pie and is important to the success that you have. And I remember one of my first sales trying to get into this account, and I had a competitor who had been in the territory for years and years and years and years. And so she got all the business. Nobody could even touch her. And I had this thought that I would just keep showing up and keep showing up and keep showing up. And someday she would go on vacation and somebody would need to call somebody and I would just be the next natural call, or I'd be sitting there waiting for it. Right. And that happened, that she wasn't there. Their device broke down and it wasn't even my company's device, but you know that every other week I used to take donuts into the warehouse and I would make buddies and hang out with the technicians. And I had a service tech on call who happened to know how to go in and repair that device. I called him and he went and repaired that competitor's device. And you better believe I became a trusted advisor to that practice. And I ended up taking over market share over time. It didn't happen overnight, but because I showed up, I utilized and accessed and leveraged the resources around me. And so don't overlook that. I think we talk about working hard and the grit and the tenacity and all the things that go into it, but it's also a lot of hard work on the things that people don't see and don't recognize, and your willingness to do the things that most people won't.
So everything you just talked about, and it's funny because you brought it from college to medical to probably into your consulting, right? It's the same thing over and over again that you practice and preach, that you've done in your life that has worked extremely well. And I think for our listeners, one of the things that really stands out to me is building that circle of trusted advisors or trusted people and really being a team player, whether it's the guy in purchasing or in materials that, or engineering, wherever that was, where he could repair the device, or it was the bus driver where you could put your backpack because maybe there was no other place to put it and you needed to have it somewhere. It doesn't really matter the situation. It still stays the same. The entire story is the same, which is you're building that circle of people within your community that you can lean on when need to, and they can lean on you. And it's a give and take relationship. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's being authentic, because that's what we do with our friends. That's what we do with our family. Why would you not do that in your workplace as well? Because it ultimately brings you success when you need it. When you're called on, when that bell rings and you're finally called for that case or that doctor needs your product, you're going to get the first call because they've got your back. And I think that's something that's so important. And you're right. It is overlooked, Kaylee. A lot of times people don't see the hard work behind it and they don't see the smart things that you're doing behind the scenes. And that is 100% one of them that needs to be really mentioned and ticked off on that list of things to have.
Absolutely. Even in sales, you started learning, ultimately what we're talking about is really networking and how you're weaving all of these parts together. In doing so, you talked about really aligning all of your people. If it's medical device sales, whether you're down in supply chain or the equipment people or who orders products to who lets you into the operating room. So how did you, on the flip side, tune out the noise and single out the negativity for those people that, I don't want this one to weave into my web? how do I find the good? How do you know to determine who you want close and who not?
Great question.
Okay. I love this question.
That's a great question.
So this is something I wish I had learned sooner. And it's something that as I built my company, especially since I built my business in an industry where I was so interconnected with people. And I found myself, when I started, I thought, I know so many people, that's going to be such a big advantage for me. And then you get going and realize, well, no, everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants a piece of what you have to offer. Oh, hey, come speak here. Do this, do that. Oh, do you know anybody who needs this? Like, you realize you have to sometimes having more around you and more influence and ideas and everybody else's opinion of what you should be, how you should be moving and building your business could actually become a negative. So I've had to get really, really good at focusing. And that all comes down to knowing what your core values are. And so I recommend for everybody to create, and I had to set core values for my company. And I realized those are so deeply interconnected to my personal values for myself. So my core values are to go all in, challenge myself to grow, and have fun. And so I use that filter in just the saying yes to come on this podcast. Like, do these girls, do they go all in? Do they challenge themselves to grow? And are they fun? And the answer was yes to all three of those. And so it was a no-brainer for me. But when you think about building your own personal brand, right, as a professional or your company, or you have to really be careful about how and who you align with, because you will become whitewashed into, oh, I saw her there. She works with that person. She's part of that. Affiliate yourself with everybody. Instead, who I hire, put them through the core value filter. What branding agency I work with? Do I like the people? Do they fit those core values? So I think if you think about what your core values are, it's the same thing I teach my kids. Like, we as a household, we go all in, we challenge ourselves to grow, and we have fun. So I think that's the number one and the most simplistic way that I would recommend to somebody, like, to think about, like, how do you say no or like block out the negativity or the naysayers? I really do not pay any attention. I know exactly where I'm headed and what my mission is. And if you're not in alignment with me, you're not going to be a part of that. And the other beautiful part of that is when you find people who you are aligned with, they strongly help uplift you and take you further and give you those wings. And so you have those allies because you know that you guys are along, on the road together and you have those aligned values.
What a great piece of advice, by the way. Thank you. I think, that helps Cindy and I tremendously. I mean, just from where we are. But yeah. I think that also helps everyone that's out there listening. And you can take that if you're a sales rep, if you're a manager, if you're a VP of sales. It's like a mission statement of a company is what it reminds me of. And it's a mission statement of your family you mentioned, as well as your business, and they have to align. And I love that because I think being authentic in today's world is so important because people buy from people that they trust and they want to be around. And they don't want to buy from just another salesperson or just somebody that's going to check the box and then leave. And they don't know when they're going to hear from them again. And, can they trust them the next time they call them? So I think that is really important to know what your core values are. And I think for those of you listening that don't know that list or you don't have that written down, spend some time. I mean, it really, for me, it would just be like a 5-10 minute, maybe 30 minutes, sit down with a notebook and write down everything that means the most to me, and then come up with a mission statement or come up with those 3 things like you mentioned, Kaylee, and then repeat them day after day after day. Put it on a sticky note and put it in your car and look at it every day and make sure that you're aligning with those values and what you're doing in your business, because I feel like your core values come out every time you interact with your customers.
And I think just your simplicity of identifying it, because I think we all are who we are. We don't think too much about it. And that kind of brings me to, we had the privilege to talk prior to this interview, and there was something that really caught my attention that I'd like you to walk through for our listeners. That's what you defined as the category of 1. So will you walk us through that? Because I feel this aligns with how you can even pull these core values to know your strengths. And so I'll let you talk to us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, and call it too, like a product of the beauty of social media. I mean, I think back and like, if I started in sales when I had access to this, I could learn everything about my customer and I would be so much better. At the same time, though, we fall into this trap of comparisonitis. And I see this with many of the business owners I work with, where they may look up to somebody and say, I want to be like them, or look what they're starting now, or they're doing now. And they end up comparing their chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10, so to speak. Or they start out on a goal that they didn't really ever want. They just feel like this is the next natural best thing of where I'm supposed to go. And I've always sort of had this contrarianism about me. I feel like a mentor told me once, when they zig, you zag. And so I always, when I see the market going one way, I literally shift to go the other way, because I believe that standing out and being unique is what's going to get you recognized and noticed. And so I think that if we stop comparing ourselves, and I think a lot of people like to think of like, well, what's an industry average, or what's the average? Or maybe you look at somebody else who's a competitor in your market or whatever and say, well, what are they doing? And just do better than them. Well, I had this conversation recently with my marketing team, and we were talking about our email marketing open rates. I'm just giving a kind of an example. And they were like, well, we're way above the average, because like the average in, digital online marketing is like 11% open, and our industry is 21% open, and we're 28. And I was like, but I don't care about the average. I want to be 100, And so like, I want you to show me what's the pathway for us to go from 28 to 38 to 48 to 58. I don't care. There's always going to be roadblocks. There's always going to be challenges along the way. And I think if you think of yourself as, instead of I'm one of these in a pool of many, or if you think like I am looking to be a category of one that no one else is, just that one-off like shooting star, you make decisions differently. You show up differently. You start to see how much control you have over the way that you interact with people and with patterns of thinking that you have. And, the way that you show up in the world is going to be very different, because what you expect of yourself is unique. And so I have the good fortune, I think, just having had the experience that I had. I told the story when I talked to you guys about when I started my consulting agency, and 4 or 5 years in, I was working with male plastic surgeon, male this. And I'm like, where are all my girls at, And I was in Hawaii on a walk with my husband, and he was like, what are you going to do about that? Why aren't women working with you? And I said, I don't think women have the same like guts to like take risks and show up or themselves as men do innately. And so we looked at each other, and I'm like, that's it. That's the problem I need to solve. And I think that if I can help women realize and recognize that they themselves are a category 1 and there's something unique and special for them, we all have a dream implanted inside us. I really believe that. And I feel like how could you really access that and show up and live that out every single day? Like, when you meet those people that are like, they're in their zone, that they've really insourced that dream. That to me is somebody who's living in their category of 1.
Oh my gosh, so inspiring. Kayla, can we just hire you? I mean, this is unbelievable. It's so inspiring to hear you talk, because you're right. I've always thought about that too. I'm like, I just believe that this dream inside of me. Well, I've always said this, that I feel like a lot of people will try and pull that light from you. When you have this great light, there are so many people out there that try and shadow that light or pull it from you or make you feel bad for that light. And it's like, no. You have to be strong enough to say, absolutely not. I believe in myself. I believe in my dream. I believe in this next step. I'm going for that promotion. I'm going to go out on my own and become an entrepreneur and change people's lives. And I think that is what has made you so successful. And that is what will make everyone successful. It's sad because women, way more so than men, we tend to shadow that. We tend to tell ourselves we can't do it, or we're not cut out for it. Or there's so many more men than women out there. What makes me think I'm going to be able to do this when they're already doing it? And the truth is, it's inside of you. You just have to believe in yourself, and you have to go for it. And you have to know, and Cindy and I talk about this a lot, you have to know you're going to work harder than every man out there to get what you want. But the payoff is so great, because it absolutely is worth it when you put that effort in, because you know that you've done it. You believe in yourself. But I'm like tearing up. It makes me upset when women doubt themselves and they're like, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. And you've done it. And that is just so awesome.
Well, it's a practice. Like, I was thinking about this because you had asked me, how do you help someone believe more in themselves? Or like, what is it that you had that made you believe? And it took me back to like those days of seeing those I finally got a 6-pack. I missed it.
Good for you.
I mean, like going back to, I don't belong in this room. That's how I felt standing there at that practice that day. But I think if we instead think about, what can I do? What do I have? What are my opportunities? And I'll tell you, when I first got hired into the big girl job in corporate, my first week, we had our COO called me to fly. I'm in California, fly to New York for a big meeting and essentially present for budget. Like I had to present sort of my ideas to secure budget for my cost center. And I was representing now all these sales reps and my teams in the Western United States. And I knew I didn't accidentally get the job. I knew I was capable of doing it and I should have been there. But I showed up to that meeting and I was early and I was still the last one there. And so I got the seat between the COO and the CEO. And I mean, I hardly remember, like, it was like, it's static because I was so nervous, but I got called to go up on stage and give my presentation. And, you know, like when you're so nervous, you can hear your heart beating and I'm like, I'm sweating.
In your ears, sweating.
No, totally. Like, yeah, thank God I had a coat on because I was like dripping sweat, my armpits, it was so bad. And I give the presentation and I sit down and I was like, I did it and I was relieved that it was done. But I left saying to myself, what is in my control is, yes, I'm new at this. Yes, I haven't done this before. Yes, I have things to learn. I could have shown up sooner, all those things. But the beautiful thing is that I learned that my ability to, again, going back to influencing people and getting what I want out of others is directly related to my ability to communicate that message to them and how I show up. So when you show up on time, when you're dressed for the job you want, not the job you have, when you do the things that are above and beyond what people ask of you, you come and bring solutions, right? And you show up the best version of you and you practice those skills to communicate what you deserve. That is when you're going to get things way beyond. And I've interviewed many people that you guys have been there, like you're in a situation where they could have asked for more, but they didn't. And being on this side of the table, I say to myself that I'm like, they could have asked. And so I think that for us, like, I think that there are tools to help you believe in yourself. And that comes with how you manage your mind, but starting with knowing that there is always more for you if you just ask for it. And so that is one thing I would say, like, if you're feeling down about, I'm not enough already, or that person's in my way, going back to the men, sea of men, be the category of one. That is our gift, ladies. Play chess, not checkers. Like we absolutely watch, like you look at the top CEOs, like women know how to connect with other people and they know how to lead and inspire people. And we have to lean into that. And I think just, okay, that's fine. Like there's going to be an obstacle, but there's also a way to get around that obstacle.
Oh, and I love it. And you summarized that so well. Showing up, you know, it's wearing the shoes that make you stand tall, being in the right outfit, be early. But the thing that I took most of what you said, whether it's the presentation, the room you're in that's new, if you take away from the environment you're in and focus on your reason for being there, you came there to deliver a message and make an impact. You were there for here's we're going to go over the budget cuts. And if you focus on you kind of like the messenger, you're just delivering the message and you focus on that, it takes away from being nervous or how other people do and who you're sitting between. And sometimes I think women, especially ones that carry jobs and have children, there's times in our life where we're called to compartmentalize. And I feel that everything that you just said makes you just be in the moment and come prepared to show up and perform as you want to, but it's focusing on your impact. I think that's so inspiring. And I love hearing
like remembering that you're in the room. Like that's the whole point. You're not going to believe in yourself until you do it. And then you survive. And then you realize, oh, I survived that thing. And most people won't put themselves in a scary enough situation to fail and learn from it in the beginning. And so that is where confidence comes from, in my opinion, is like, I can take anybody tell me. I've had people that I trusted and I relied upon and I thought were in my camp make comments to me like, oh, well, you're lucky you have when you started your company and you had your husband because you had a fallback plan. And I'm like, little does he even know. And half of what I have independently built and where I came from for us to be in that situation. But that's fine. Let you think that because that makes you feel better. But doubt will creep into your mind from sometimes the safest places that you think, right? And so you have to be that one that proves to yourself every day, this was hard and I did it. And that's my win. When I started my company, I had 0 clients. I worked with a life coach and she was like, okay, Kaylee, here's what we're going to do. take a sticky note. Every time somebody gives you a compliment, you write it on a sticky note and you stick it up on your computer, right? And I started like collecting these sticky notes of like, just to try to get myself through it. And I remember somebody wrote me a testimonial. Kaylee gives the best free advice. She's like, put it on the sticky note. I know, put it on the sticky note. And I'm like, seriously, this is what I'm celebrating. I can't do it. But that is sometimes what it comes down to. Or like when I have imposter syndrome about something, like I'll tell myself, who am I to go stand on stage and talk about that? I'm not Brene Brown. Like I'm going to talk about boundaries and vulnerability and all this stuff. Like I didn't do all this research. And then I say, I'll literally write it down like on my notebook. I will make a little T-chart and I'll write the thing that I'm telling myself, like, you're not qualified. And then I will say, well, yeah, I absolutely am. And I will combat that with 3 reasons why. Yes, I am. I help women every single day. Yes, I am. I'm sharing my story and the world needs me to share my story. Yes, I am. I have recorded blah, 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 number of podcast episodes. I don't care what it is. My son thinks I look pretty when I got up this morning. Like whatever you got to do. But like we have to outsmart our own brain and instill that confidence in ourselves. No one's coming to save us.
I love that. Because if you never took the risk in the first place, you never would have gotten your 6-pack, right? I mean, did you think you belonged in the room on that team first?
Girl, like I'm telling you, the amount of barfs that I had to endure along my 6-mile run to get that 6-pack. But
and you know what I keep thinking about every time you talk is I'm like, there's that little girl. There's that little girl that was like, I'm going to have that 6-pack. I'm not going to get cut from this team. I am not only making this team, I'm going to be the star of the team. And it's like, that's what's shining through every time you go up on stage, every time you help a client, every time you work with someone find their way. It's just that little girl inside of you that's like, I'm not giving up yet. I'm still here. And I still believe in myself. And I think we all have that. We all to some degree have that in ourselves because we wouldn't be here if we didn't. We wouldn't have faced the adversity that we did and did well, or beat it on the team, or beat it at home, wherever it was. We all have that little girl inside of us just cheering us on. And like you're doing, writing down those affirmations, that's your own inner cheerleader, reminding you of who you are, what you stand for, what you've accomplished, and what you're going to go accomplish. And I think, God, I mean, they sound so easy, but I'll tell you what, we sure can forget about that really quickly. When we're in the middle of something, or I'm struggling with something right now that Cindy knows about. And I'm like, every time I call her, I'm like, oh, I sound like a broken record. And she's like, stop, think about this. And she has to help me recenter. And it's like, I should know this. I really should be able to talk to myself, but I can't. So I call her. But it's like that little girl.
That's why I have a business, It's true because look, also part of it's like knowing your blind spots, being real with yourself. Like, okay, I'm not able to talk myself off a ledge when it comes to this thing. And so I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to get the help. I'm going to get a friend. I'm going to resource myself with an ally who can remind me. And I think that's the thing, like in our life, we all have that ability to say, I'm going to find somebody in my life who will hold space to remind me that this was my plan and this is who I am, right? And that because we'll talk ourselves out of it. And so sometimes you need someone to be like Rocky, like the coach in the corner. Yes. That's like, let's go. And sometimes you also need someone that's to be like, get up off your ASS and like, go just get it done. Like, okay, that's enough. Let's stop the pity party. Sometimes you need accountability too. Like you said, you were going to do this, get up and do it. But that's the navigating the human brain. And so it's totally like, don't shame yourself, obviously, for feeling that way. It's like, just know you do. Where can you get support? I mean, people like laugh at, I have a coach for everything, like a personal trainer, right? It's like, yeah, we all know how to eat right and work out. I could watch the YouTube video. It's fine. But I need somebody to sit there and be like, Kaylee, I'm waiting for you.
Right.
That's my
keep you accountable. That's a good point. Yeah. Keep you accountable. I love it. I love it.
Oh my gosh. I find you so inspiring.
I was just going to say, this has been an awesome, awesome time. I don't want to let you go. But quickly, just tell our listeners what you do now and where they can find you if they're interested in looking you up for consulting or just an inspirational speech. Tell us a little bit about that.
And include about your podcast.
Yes. Oh, yes. And the podcast. I love the title, by the way.
The podcast, is a great place to start. It's called The Fierce Factor.
Because you are one.
And it's 20 minutes every week of inspiration. I say sarcasm, sass, a little bit of education about business building. And it's for women who just high growth women who want more for themselves in their life and want to optimize themselves. I very much still have the athlete mindset. So I feel like I have off the field, right? Like I grew up being a soccer player, but like this is my sport now. My sport is helping female entrepreneurs build and achieve their best life. Our mission at our company is to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business every single year. So our goal is to help women build deeply satisfying, lucrative, freedom-based businesses, life first businesses, right? We all do this because I don't care if you're an entrepreneur or if you're in a career, you always have a choice. And it's part of the game. You get up every day to do it out of a choice. And so sometimes you just need someone to remind you of that, to help you guide you on that path and to help you in-source your wisdom and navigate the normal things of building something that nobody's built before, essentially. So we have a leadership academy. I have a team of coaches, and we work on everything from helping you build your business to your executive presence, dynamic communication, to public speaking, and all the things in between. We primarily focus in the aesthetic, medical aesthetic, and wellness industries. We do have clients outside of industry for some of our programming, but I think just listening to the Fierce Factor podcast, you'll get a lot of inspiration. We have a lot of kind of pathways and freebies and things like that from there that you'll get from listening to the podcast.
Yeah, I love the podcast. I actually listened to a couple of them. One of the ones where you talked about retention of employees and embracing maybe not just having to retain everybody and accepting the fact that you're going to have some loss there, but also about being a great leader. And that entire podcast, like you just said, was probably 20 minutes long. And the whole time I was listening to it as I was running, I thought this can be applied anywhere. It doesn't just apply to aesthetics. It applies to devices or finance or car sales. Like it applies everywhere. And so I really do love your podcast. I really love the title.
Thank you. Well, I think the same thing of yours, like you just giving advice about showing up early and being the one to like make sure everything you're in the OR, right? And like, you can't expect everything to be in the place where it was. Like you have to prepare for be agile. And, those things too do relate to like just good reminders of us in our life about how much we do have control over in our environment and how we can be the creator of the solutions. I think that's just such a gift to like have that mindset.
Well, I love that. I think we've all been given a gift to hear how you have shared your story with us. And I really hope it inspires others out there. And that little underdog mentality can go so far. And to now know that where people can find you and be able to reach out to you, that, bringing women together stronger and better is such a gift. So thank you, Kaylee, very, very much.
Thank you, ladies. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All this was so wonderful. Thank you, Kaylee, so much for your inspirational words. And I just want to highlight two main things before we close out today. I would like all of our listeners to remember to be a category of one by leveraging your strengths to stand out and seize opportunities that may come your way.
Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.